Speak our invocation by Grace Hallelujah from Amazing Grace Ministries.
Stand, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we thank you very much for this morning. The most holy and the high God and the loving God, we humble ourselves before you in this place and at this time. Lord, we want to acknowledge who you are and what you have done and what you are doing in Bradley County. We do not come as a routine, but Lord, in recognition of what your word has said in Psalm 127 verse 1. It says, unless the Lord build the house, the builder labors in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watching alone. Father, we thank you because your word is true and we're bringing it to you what you have said. Even in John 15 verse 5 says, for apart from you, O God, we can do nothing. So dear God in heaven, we're committing today's meeting unto your hand, trusting that you will lead. Now, Heavenly Father, we want to thank you. We want to thank and praise you for all our leaders in Bradley County, for your protection over them, and for the ability given to them to do their work. Thank you for our city, for the preservation of life, for peace, for many blessings that we enjoy in our community. We are very grateful to you, O God. And Lord, we want to bring our request before you. And now, Lord, I pray for all our city officials that governs this county, that your wisdom will be upon them in making good and godly decisions, which are always in the best interest of our community. And I pray for those who are in law enforcement, that you will please protect them in their line of duty, day after day. I pray for the men and women who are working daily to seek the peace and the progress of our county. Lord, I ask for your protection from all diseases, and that the present virus will become a forgotten thing in our county and the nation as large. Pray especially for all the deliberations, decisions in today's meeting to be under your control as you guide them by your spirit and wisdom that come from you. Father, may you grant all your servants everything they need for their assignment. Most of all, servanthood heart, that they will be able to fulfill the important role in making our country a better home for all of us. Oh Lord, may you give our leaders your justice and righteousness, confidence and courage to do what is good and what is right. Bless all their efforts that is in line according to your purpose. Father, we thank you. Grant them the ability to work together in love and in harmony, even when there is honest disagreement, and give them divine solution to challenges they may be facing as they serve you. And finally, Lord, I ask for your peace that passes man's understanding for all our city workers. And I pray that they will experience personally peace and joy that only Jesus can give. And Lord, I thank you for this privilege of asking and the promise of giving answer to us. All this we ask in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor. Now, Madam, would you call the roll?
Peak.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Goins.
Here.
Slater.
Here.
Mason.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Rayford.
Here.
Winters.
Here.
Epperson.
Here.
Hughes.
Here.
Alford.
Here.
Cry.
Here.
Blake.
Here.
Mull.
Here.
It's 14 present and none absent.
Thank you, Madam. Entertain a motion for approval of minutes. I have one from Commissioner Hughes. Second from Commissioner Goins. Any discussion? Call roll, please.
Peak.
Here. Yes, ma'am.
Thompson.
Yeah.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Rayford.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Here.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, Madam. Now, a report from our county mayor, Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a special guest with us today. Elena Jones is with us as our guest mayor. She is a fifth grader at Michigan Avenue School, the daughter of Chandra and Justin Jones. Her dad, Justin, is with her also. She's been on a tour of the annex and the courthouse, got to meet some judges and attend court and so forth. She's been prepped on the things on the agenda today, so if you have any hard questions for her, she'll be ready for them. I think Elena has a report for us right now, so I'd like to welcome Elena Jones as our guest county mayor.
I only have one thing to report today. The budget requests have been compiled and sent to your assistant. You have to tell Lori whether you want a thumb drive or for a copy like this. I hope you will work to balance the budget without raising your taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Thank you, ma'am. Anything else, mayors?
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, entertain a motion for consent agenda.
So moved.
Commissioner Goins has a second from Commissioner Mason. Call the roll, please.
Peak.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Rayford.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, ma'am. Now reports from committees and or districts. We'll start to my right, Commissioner Epperson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to start off with, in my report, I'd like to thank the fellow commissioners for understanding the concerns from the citizens of the first district about the landfill. We approved a monitoring system to be installed, ensuring accountability from the last operator. It is currently in operation with Republic. The operator had stated at the last commission meeting that they have stopped receiving sludge as of March the 1st, but it continues to receive sludge from Cleveland Utilities. Also, Republic had stated that they have doubled the gas wells at the landfill, and we do appreciate those efforts. Now under consideration, they want to add a solidification process at this site and must have approval from this commission. There is our opportunity to move forward in discussion with Republic. So, Mr. Chairman, I move to remove my resolution that I agreed to carry for the mayor. I would like to move it to the next voting session, which would be April the 4th, allowing more time for discussion. Also, I would like to ask Commissioner Peak to call for a landfill committee meeting for further discussion and possible amendment to the current contract with Republic. The following questions are some of that I would like to ask now to give Republic time to respond at the landfill committee meeting. Number one, would they be agreeable to amend the current contract to state that Republic is willing to suspend all sludge other than sludge coming from Bradley County, the city of Cleveland, indefinitely? Number two, To ensure accountability with Republic, give this commission the right to suspend operations and on solidification, temporary, or if choosing, indefinitely, if good management practices weren't being followed. Number 3, Republic anticipates handling approximately 6 loads per day for a total of 39,500 gallons of liquid. Would Republic be willing to put a cap on the gallons received per day? If Republic wanted to receive more liquid, they would need to receive prior approval from this commission. Also, in the information Republic has provided, they state that they will have signage at the entrance of the landfill of list of liquids that will be accepted or liquids that will not be accepted. I would like Republic to disclose this list as soon as possible. After each non-hazardous load is processed, it requires a tank filter test, EPA testing method 9095, to assure that it's accessible for disposal. Can Republic give more details on how it will achieve this in the field? In closing, I look forward to more discussion, negotiations, and on the solidification process. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So, in essence, you want me to move item E to the next voting session, and you want this to go before that voting session to the landfill committee.
Exactly, Mr. Chair.
That's correct. And the questions that you have, you will provide those
I will.
to
I
the
have
public
copies.
and to the landfill committee as well. Okay. Okay. March 28th for you? Yeah, big
5:30, yes.
Did you get that, Lori?
No.
Hey, March 28th, landfill committee at 5:30. Could that work for Republic? Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Did you get that, Ms. Mumford?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, moving on, Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, I am excited that this has been put off and moved to the landfill committee. That there are several questions that I've been notified about, asking for one. The other is there's several that I have myself. One is one of the questions I asked was a simple question: what exactly is liquid sludge or liquid waste that we are approving? At the time, the gentleman that was talking about could not answer that question. I think they referred to bread. A simple Google found the answer. And in the most unlikely place, it surprised me, and I found it on Republic's own website. So I can't understand why it wasn't simply a simple answer. So knowing that that's going before a committee, I have many more questions that's coming up. Other than that, we have the Emergency Service Committee will be meeting at noon on March 24th here at the Commission Room. And I have no other.
Noon, March 24th.
Yes,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
Thank you, sir. All right, thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Alford?
Second, good and well.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Blake?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. Keep America Beautiful will be out at exit 20, picking up tires and getting them, continuing that process. Interesting note, the Bradley Central High School football team will be assisting in this effort this coming Saturday. Coach Boyd and get the offensive line, I don't know. But they'll be out there this Saturday, hopefully with weather permitting. On that same note, Keep America Beautiful is having the Great American Breakfast, formerly known as the Solid Waste Breakfast, on April the 1st. Hopefully your schedules allow you to be there. Next, Lori, I will take the thumb drive on that budget request. Next, Mr. Chairman, my fellow commissioners, budget time is upon us. Our fellow elected officials and department heads have completed their budget request document, which includes their wants and needs for the upcoming budget year. This is the last budget resolution for the 2018-2022 commission. We began this term in 2018, a year not too different from the preceding years. We worked the first 15 months of our term serving our constituents and handling county business. When we turned to the calendar of the page of the next decade, we became all too acquainted with the term unprecedented. The unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic began infecting our neighbors, loved ones, and some of us. Our hospitals and our emergency services were challenged. We were forced to alter our way of life with the new practices of social distancing, masking, quarantining, and lockdowns. We can no longer easily procure needed household items due to panic buying, supply chain issues, and supply shortages. The pandemic caused the term unprecedented to spread into other realms of our life, such as politics and world affairs. Today we assemble at a time when war is being raised in Europe and inflation is at a rate higher than it has been in 40 years, with the cost of goods and services, gasoline, home prices all up significantly and affecting families. Just as families are reviewing their budgets, the county has to as well. This past week, the Federal Reserve elected to raise the interest rates a quarter point to fight the inflation, and it is expected they will again before the end of the year. With that in mind, a significant percentage of our county debt is variable, which means increased rates require a larger debt service payment. That's going to be affecting our budget. We are already working with our debt management consultants on the best way to prepare for this interest rate hike. In speaking with our Assessor of Property, Stanley Thompson, while he is optimistic on our position, there are still major firms with outgoing appeals. You guys all remember how those appeals affected us a couple of years if they won their appeal. We must account for how these appeals will impact the budget one way or the other. All this to say, I know our departments have needs. This is the time of the year when departments discuss with us their needs and wants for the upcoming year, and I assure you the Finance Committee is committed to reviewing all the submitted needs and working to provide for each one, providing for each of them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there's no objections, I'd like to have these remarks put into the minutes of the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I have from the third.
Thank you. Commissioner Peak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have several things. First, I'd like to remind you guys, I'm happy to have this landfill committee meeting next Monday before our regular meeting. However, I just want to remind you guys that we cannot amend contracts according to our county attorney many times. We cannot amend the contracts. And also, I'd like you guys to remember that they don't work for us. Republic, we don't own the landfill. Republic owns and manages their own landfill, and they were very nice. Well, I know we own the landfill, but we don't tell them what to do per our contract, correct? So I just would like y'all to remember that they did not have to remove the sludge from the landfill in the first place. However, they did. So let's try to keep that in mind. Bring all your questions, and if you have more questions that aren't submitted today, please have those to me as quickly as possible so that we can get them to Republic so that they can be here and be prepared to answer any and all questions. And we'll get through that at 5:30 on next Monday night. Secondly, we've had plenty of calls in the 4th District about dogs on Bates Point. It's a subdivision down through there, and there are bulldogs, pit bulls, I guess, that continue to attack neighbor animals, and they have attacked people in the past. And I think the Sheriff's Department has responded there quite often. I just have questions on why the dogs aren't being removed and something being done to those animals. According to the neighbors, they're removed maybe once every blue moon, but they are returned immediately. So I don't know if the same protocol goes when a dog bites another dog or almost kills another dog or kills another dog, if they are supposed to be put down. If it's the same protocol as when an animal, I know whenever they bite a human that pretty much we put them down. So I'd just like to find out more information about those calls, and maybe the Sheriff's Department, if they can answer those for me. Also, I had one more. The hospital money. I've got questions this last week, I'm not sure why, but the renewed interest in the hospital sale. And I don't know enough about it to discuss it because I was not here. at that time. I've been here a very long time, but I was not here during the sale of the hospital. So in the next couple work sessions, maybe if someone can come give us a brief history of the sale of the hospital, where the money goes, how it's allocated, and how the community benefits from the sale of the hospital money. And if, I'm not sure who would want to do that, the mayor may have all those answers, and I'd be interested in hearing them so that I'm educated. And I had 2 coffees before we came, that's why I'm talking so fast. Usually, I don't drink coffee. Also, last week, several of us were targeted on Facebook about having a meeting here after the meeting and a meeting at Old Fort Restaurant or something. So if you watch Facebook, just remember, not everything on Facebook is true. It's fake most of the time. However, there was some misinformation about the landfill, and I'm not sure if a lot of these calls that we've been getting are from this misinformation that was on Facebook. So one of them I will say right here, we have not discussed ever about opening another landfill on Dalton Pike ever. I can speak for myself, and I'm sure all of you will nod in that affirmation, that none of us have ever discussed opening another landfill on Dalton Pike. So that myth should be expelled. So if you look at Facebook for your news, then you should get another source. And that's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pete. I'm glad you didn't have 3 copies. Commissioner Cotton.
Second district is doing fine, and there's no landfill being proposed up on Council Road and Upper River Road either. That's also been on Facebook.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Thompson.
There's not one on 64 either. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I'm gonna go back to Mr. Peak. She left out something.
Yeah, the most important part in bold print. The Building and Lane Committee met earlier this morning to discuss the 95 Church Street building, which is currently occupied by the Agriculture Extension Office on the 1st floor and long-term storage archives on the 2nd floor. Our committee voted to recommend declaring the entire building at 95 Church Street long-term archives after the Ag Office vacates. I place this on recommendation in the form of a motion.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Cry. Any discussion? All right, Matt, would you call the roll?
Peak,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Black. Mull.
Yes.
It's 14 in favor and none opposed.
Passes. Is that it, Commissioner Peak?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Goins.
5th District did well.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you recall, a couple of years ago, there was a lawsuit that was filed in regards to opioid abuse in our area and surrounding counties. The Supreme Court ultimately decided that this lawsuit was illegal because it was filed by district attorneys. On March the 18th this year in Sevier County, there was another lawsuit filed by 6 attorneys for 22 counties in East Tennessee and Middle Tennessee. This is a lawsuit that is a $25 billion lawsuit against those who have distributed opioids throughout Tennessee. This lawsuit is expected to last between 12 and 18 months. So you will be hearing more about that in the news, but I just wanted to make you aware that there wasn't a new lawsuit filed March the 18th. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Slater. Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Chairman Moe. Six districts doing well. The road committee met last week and voted to ask the county planner to put together a policy that would require the engineer to submit road projects to the road superintendent for review prior to the approval process. Upon completion, the road committee will review it and may have a recommendation for the commission, and I will keep you posted on that. The committee also voted to recommend placing no dumping signs on both sides of Hooper Gap Road. Dumping has become an issue on the road under the interstate. I understand the road department placed a work order for this request. And the committee voted to recommend placing no parking signs on Georgetown Drive at the request of a property owner that is regularly unable to access their property due to parked vehicles. I place this recommendation in form of a motion.
A second by Commissioner Slater. Any discussion?
Would you repeat that?
The committee voted to recommend placing no parking signs on Georgetown Drive at the request of a property owner that is regularly unable to access their property due to a parked vehicles.
Any other discussion, Commissioner?
I assume that the road department budget will pay for those signs?
There's no funding asked for.
There's no funding. Okay, it's free.
I'm assuming she can pay for it.
There's
She
an
didn't
assumption in
ask- She
there.
didn't ask for additional money, so. It's Commissioner Winters.
Is that addressing the city? Georgetown Road? The highway, where is this? Because typically, if it's in the city will take care of that. All we have to do is call the city.
I think it's real county.
It's a county.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, call roll, would you mind?
Pete,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yeah.
Goins,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Raker,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Alford,
Yes.
Cry,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
It's 14 in favor, none opposed.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
We also voted to recommend, we also voted to recommend accepting some roads and abandoning a road and an old right-of-way. The documentation is being prepared for these items, and I will bring them to next week's work session. That's all I have. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All is well on the 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Raker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, we'll dwell real quickly on the landfill. I feel like that as a commissioner, my number one concern for the citizens of Bradley County is their safety and welfare. And I feel like, I'm not going to speak for other commissioners, but they probably feel the same way. So I have big concerns about voting that in. And so I'm looking forward to it being put off and getting answers. The other thing I want to point out is this. No matter what, they can at any time re-enter the sludge business without us approving it all. So they can take on more at their discretion whenever they want to. So anyway, I wanted to make you aware of that. Next thing, I'll end on a positive note. This last week or two, I was in 911 center, and very, very impressive. And they were short-staffed, so I wanted to make you aware of that. There's a certification process. It's real high stress. I know that a number of the people that are newer workers are requesting straight days, which may not be possible. So a number of problems there, but they are doing a great job with what they have. And I encourage all commissioners to at some point visit there. And I'm going to end with this one. And I'm just reading here. Every year during the second week of April, public safety telecommunicators are honored. This week-long event is a time to celebrate and thank those who dedicate their lives to the service of the public and help save millions of lives every day, referring to 911. And so what they were doing is adopt a dispatcher and they were doing different things for those. Well, they've had every dispatcher adopted, but I just thought it might be prudent for each commissioner to maybe write them a card of thanks to the job they do. So anyway, thank you for the job they do, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Raymond. Commissioner Winters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I met with the juvenile committee last week. We had an excellent committee meeting. The juvenile director presented to us all the activities they've been a part of: Leaf Academy, the Master Gardener program, vaping classes, recovery court, many things that they do. People ask me, what if a child is in the juvenile center, what happens with them? Well, there's a lot of things that happen there besides just incarceration. There's a lot of neat things happening. We did have, met last week and discussed the upcoming budget needs. Voted unanimously to refer to the Finance Committee 2 items to be considered for the upcoming budget. First is a 20,000 server that needs to be upgraded at a cost of about $14,000. The other is a control station at the cost of about $8,000. That control station actually locks the doors and keeps everything safe. Let me just say this too. I support Commissioner Peak in saying about the miscommunication, misinformation that's being thrown out there. We had a gentleman come up here and stand that people had said that he was going to give his property to a landfill. People had put that on the computer and shared that. This is just basically an echo chamber. People get on our internet, and somebody says what they think, and another person says, yeah, that's the way it is, and it goes that way. And supposedly, we had dinner all together after a meeting at one of the restaurants. We don't do that. We take care of business in front of the public. And please be careful in this election year. This particular period of time, people are throwing out their truth, and it has nothing to do with truth. Please take a look at who's sending out what and what the agenda is for those folks. This is a tough time to prove yourself to a public that's already identified who you are. If you want to know what I did, and you want to know why I did that, then you put my name on a sign somewhere. You have a right to do that anytime you want to. When you put my name on a sign with 8 of my other fellow commissioners, you need to know why we did what we did. And then you can do whatever you want to. But until you do, be careful of putting people's names up on a sign of what they did, because you don't have a clue many times what we did it for. If you know that, you put names anywhere you want to. But this misinformation stuff is killing a lot of people, killing a lot of friends, and can kill our community if we keep playing that echo chamber, because this person said it's got to be true, and yeah, and then pass it out to 500 people in our community. Be careful what you put on social media. I can say this group here is not a conspiracy group. We do our business in front of you. We take the hit when it's appropriate, and we'll take the hit even when it's not appropriate. But to say we're doing things behind the scenes and stuff, the decisions are made right here and in our committee meeting. That's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Winters.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Epson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the comments that come from Commissioner Peak, I would like to pose a question to our county attorney, Crystal Father. And I'm the contracts that we are currently under with Republic. If both parties are agreeable, Republic and Bradford County, could we not do an amendment to that contract?
Absolutely, yeah. I think what Commissioner Peak was referring to was that when that issue came up before, we were sort of unilaterally trying to change the contract without having the agreement, and I think at that time it was Santec. But yes, certainly the agreement could be amended at any point in time after approvals if both parties were agreeable to that. So yes, the conversation of contract amendment has to be agreement of both parties, but yes.
Yeah, and that's what I thought, and I thought it was just a great opportunity to just make sure and they have the insurances for the people in the first district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Epson. Anyone else have anything? Okay. Thank you, commissioners. Could I entertain a motion for approval of the agenda, please? A motion. Commissioner Goins, second by Commissioner Winters. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, Madam.
Peak.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
It's 14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving into the agenda, item A, Commissioner Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution. We've been working on the affordable housing initiative from the ARP funds for the last 5 or 6 months. The Finance Committee met with the organizations and had the following for your approval. Item A there, the resolution appropriating up to one, a key word there is up to $100,000 to the Bradley Cleveland Community Service Agency to renovate the emergency shelter annex located at 635 H Street to increase the number of emergency shelter beds as allowed by conditions and terms of the American Rescue Plan Act from the funds allocated by the Resolution 2021-50 and authorizing Bradley County Mayor to execute an agreement with Bradley County Community Services Agency regarding said appropriations. The resolutions is in your packet there on page 34 and 35. I will also say that the Finance Committee put in there a contingency that the city also matched what we are voting on today. I did have a quick chat with the city manager of FIFAS. They're a couple weeks behind on us with our approvals, but just so you know, there is a contingency on here. Mr. Chairman, I'll take this in the form of a motion. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion, have a second by Commissioner Thompson. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner
Yeah,
Epperson.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to comment that the emergency shelter was actually, when it was constructed, it was done by the Ocoee Region Builders Association. They were instrumental in building that facility, and I'd like to see maybe this happening. So, we'll pass that out. Thank you.
Commissioner Blake.
Just, I guess, a little bit more, the actual property, I went over and talked to Stanley and got some more info. It is actually owned by the city. That's why the contingency that the city do their part on this.
Okay.
So it is owned by the city.
Thanks, Steve. Any other discussion? Being none, call roll please, ma'am.
Peak.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
It's 14 in favor and none opposed.
Motion passes. Item B, Commissioner Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a continuation of the resolution appropriating $48,375 to Family Promise for the prevention of homelessness to shelter children and their families as allowed by conditions and terms of the American Rescue Plan Act from the funds allocated in Resolution 2021-50 and authorizing the county mayor to execute an agreement with Family Promise regarding said appropriations. Mr. Chairman, put that in form of motion. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second? Commissioner Hughes with a second. Any discussion? Call roll please, ma'am.
Peak.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
It's 14 in favor and none opposed.
Okay, motion passes. Item C, Commissioner Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution appropriating $25,000 to Ocoee Outreach for the prevention of homelessness and addressing substandard housing needs with renovations as allowed by conditions and terms of the American Rescue Plan Act from the funds allocated by Resolution 2021-50 and authorized the Bradley County Mayor to execute an agreement with Ocoee Outreach regarding said appropriation. Mr. Chairman, put that in form of motion. Thank you.
Got a second by Commissioner Goins. Any discussion? Call roll please, ma'am.
Peak.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Motion passes. Item D, Commissioner Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee, that pretty much dissolves all of the funding, actually a little bit more, if that's okay, with respect to the money that we put into the affordable housing bucket. We thought it prudent and to basically close that down and not accept anymore. That doesn't mean in the future we can't reopen it if after the other expenditures have been done and stuff in the next year or two. We got a couple of years with this money, but just to be on the safe side and let everybody know what's going on, transparency. The Finance Committee recommended to close the affordable housing bucket of the American Rescue Plan funds allocated by Resolution 21-50. That's a formal, unanimous recommendation from Finance. Put that in form of motion. Thank you.
Okay, a motion to have a second by Commissioner Cry. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Peak,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Rayford.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Blake. Moving into item F. That's a resolution to rezone from Forest Agricultural Residential to general, to one, I-1 General Industrial District property located at Lock Boulevard. We're going to enter into a public meeting. Anyone here for or against this? Being none, Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, it's a resolution to rezone from FAR to I-1, property located at Locker Boulevard and Dillard Road Northwest, and identified by tax map 10, parcel 14, and this can be seen on pages 41 and 42. I'll put that in form of motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second by Commissioner Goins? Any discussion? Call the roll, please, ma'am.
Peak,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Rayford.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, ma'am. Again, another resolution moving from one to the other. This is for the property located at 5396 Bates Pike. Anyone here to speak for this or against it? Okay, Commissioner Hughes? Do I have one? Yes. Yes, ma'am, come on. Come up here, please. State your name, please, ma'am.
My name is Sherry Conway, and I've been a resident on Bates Pike for 31 years now. And I have concerns based on the road conditions there. In our property itself, we've had over 18 to 20 cars go off the road and land in our yard. And we're just concerned that, with the traffic increases there, that we're going to have more damage. Someone could be killed because of the embankment there on the road coming around the curve at the church. And I just think that it needs to be evaluated a little bit more.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else want to speak for or against this?
Say something real quick. I've already spoke a couple times. I just wanted to bring back around that it's, to her concerns, it's not about the property owner. It's not about the potential developer. It's really just how are we going to develop the county, and R2 zoning is just, I know numbers I said before, some people didn't like them, even if you cut them by 30%, that's 800 to 1,000 doors that'll go on that farm as far as townhomes. And I just feel like the roads, the schools, the things cannot handle that without more due diligence.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson. Anyone else? Yes. Come on up, Mr. Stepp.
I kind of agree with them about the roads, but the roads are bad now. I live right across the road from Miss Conway, and I can attest to what she says. They run all the time. I don't know how many times I've had to fix the fence just above her house. So, but that'll be up to the county when this is all done to fix the roads. I believe the gentleman, it was him, said the other day that now they can widen the roads by putting the tile in. They don't have to. So I'm sure that when this is done, that'll be looked after. And, I've restricted it against everything I could do that they brought up. And I just, I hated about the roads, but it suit me if they fix them now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stepp. Anyone else for or against that want to speak on this? Being so, we'll go back into the agenda. Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, this is a resolution to rezone from FAR, which is forestry, agricultural, residential, and C1, which is rural commercial district, to R2 high-density residential district property located at 5396 Bates Pike and identified by tax map 67, parcel 46. You can see this on page 43 and 44. I put that in the form of motion.
Okay, a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Goins. Any discussion, Commissioners? Commissioner Ray.
I'm doing this just out of the concerns that they've said. So if this is going to be developed, we talked about there will be a road study and so on as far as numbers out there on the road. Is it wide enough and to occupy and so on? Am I correct saying that? I'm just trying to alleviate concerns. So.
We done after the zoning.
Yes.
After the zoning?
Yes. Right. Any other question? Commissioner Peak.
And just to reiterate, Mr. Stepp did compromise in restricting all of his property last week. We heard from the community accepting the restrictions on that. And I will myself be at the preliminary plat phase if someone purchases it. If those things go through, we can't vote on maybes or ifs, but if someone purchases it, if they bring preliminary plat, I'll be there to see what the preliminary plat is. And we will make sure that road studies are done and everything that's available to be done. And if the county can't fix the roads to accommodate whatever's being proposed, then I'll be the first to vote against that. But until preliminary plat's in front of us to see what there is, and plus Ocoee Utilities does not have anything in writing right now that says they'll support however many homes that are being proposed out there right now, which we don't know. But Ocoee Utilities only has one facility right now. So I don't know that it could even accommodate that, and they have not put anything in writing stating that it will. So based on all of that information, I just want everybody to know that I'll be there when the preliminary plat is in place to make sure that the roads do accommodate or don't accommodate, and we'll go from there on that.
Thank you, Mr. Peak. Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, I cannot speak for the planning committee, but as a member on the committee, I will ask for an impact study. Whether they vote to approve that or not, I can't answer that, but it will be asked for.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Mr. Thompson.
One thing I'd like to say that Bates Pike can be used as a state aid road. And when you use state aid on the road, the state usually pays, I think it's 75% of it, and the county pays 25%, something like that. But it don't have to be used for pavement, it can be used for improvement. So that's something that we can look into in the future as towards improvement. The county road department could use that as a state aid road and use it for improvements instead of blacktop.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Anyone else? Call roll, ma'am.
Peak,
Yes.
Thompson, Goins.
Yes.
Slager.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Rayford.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mull.
Yes.
14 in favor and 9 opposed.
Okay, motion passes. Moving into item H, this is, again, moving from FAR to R2 on Bates Pike. Anybody here to speak for or against? Okay. Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, this is a resolution to rezone from FAR Forestry Agricultural Residential District to R2 High Density Residential District. Property located at 5510 Bates Pike, identified by tax map 75, parcel 75. This can also be seen on page 45 and 46. I put that in the form of motion.
Motion, I have a second. Second by Commissioner Goins. Again, any discussion, Commissioner Blake?
Just a real quick question, Mr. Chairman. After we vote these zoning changes, what else do we vote on? Commissioner Peak said that she wouldn't support it if they didn't do something, but I didn't know that we would be voting on this again.
Well, this is just a change for the zoning.
Right, this is a
Then they'll
zoning
come
change.
back with actual, what's going in
And we'll
there.
vote on-
That'll come from the planning commission.
The planning commission will make a recommendation on,
State planning.
so what do we vote on this again?
You won't be voting on anything.
Okay, I just going by what you said.
No, I didn't say I'd vote on it, so I'll be there to watch it.
Okay, my bad.
Any other questions? Can I call roll, please, Lynn?
Pete,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Goins.
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Mason.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Raper.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Alford.
Yes.
Cry.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Moe.
Yes.
14 in favor and none opposed.
Okay, motion passes. At this time, any communication from the audience? Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Alford, didn't see.
A comment before we go to communication from the audience. The lady that came up a minute ago, and Joe also mentioned about that road at a certain point, sound like you've had a lot of people run into your yard and fencing. Mr. Mason, would you put that on a road, committee appointment next time to have road people go out and look at that curve and see if they might be able to put some, railing around it or something to solve that problem, or at least alleviate it to some degree?
Yes, sir. Ma'am, could you remind us where that church was? You said there was a church right there, right?
There's a church there that is.
Oh, Thompson Springs, okay. Yeah, I know where that is.
They turned the curve at Thompson Springs, heading toward the school, and it's hammered down. And if they drop off the asphalt, well, they're either in her yard or my field.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about.
We have
Thank
issues
you.
like that everywhere out there, and that's why we've asked for the county to come out there several times and never get a response.
Thank you. Mr. Peak?
Also, could you ask them the reflectors that they used to put in the middle, and then they had the rumble strips on the sides? I don't think those go out there at all anymore, and I'm pretty sure we used to put those reflectors out, and then all of a sudden, a few years ago, they stopped doing that, and they started taking them up. I'm not sure what the purpose of that was, but if you could ask, that would definitely help in that curve. If they had rumble strips, or even the reflector strips would help down the center. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, now communication from the audience. Anybody who wants to speak before the commission, you'll come up, state your name and address. And if you don't want to give your address publicly, you can give it to Ms. Moultrie when you're through.
Y'all have heard enough from me, but I'm disheartened, of course. This is what I do for a living. I appraise developments, proposed developments. I just feel like the county it's a little reckless to rezone high-density residential with all the things you've heard from all the different people that live in the county. I'm all for development. I hope going forward some things could change to where you don't zone it and then try and figure it all out on the back end. I think that's reckless, and I'm sorry. But thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson. Anyone else? Oh, Mr. Peak.
And you're more than welcome to try to go to the state level and get that changed, the process that we have to follow. And if you do that, then it would kind of make sense to do what you're saying. But I know no one's going to spend the money on a preliminary plat before they purchase it for us to look at. That's why when it goes to preliminary plat, I'll be there to make sure that Mike Hughes is going to ask for an impact study because he's on that planning commission board. And I'll be there every step of the way to look at the roads and everything associated with it to see if that property can accommodate subdivision or if the roads can accommodate subdivision. So, but until then, rezoning, then the preliminary plats and people purchase the property, and that's the Tennessee annotated code. We can't change that ourselves. You have to do that at the state level.
Thanks, Mr. Peak. Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Family came back from a vacation in Florida with COVID. My name is Dan Jones. I live at 905 Forest View Place, northwest Cleveland, Tennessee. We have a Jones as county mayor. Congratulations. Great name. I'm just here to pray with you and offer my condolences to the 12 other county folks that we lost to COVID. In the fall of 2020, right before Thanksgiving, we'd only lost 23 people. Now we're at 400. And a lot of it is because of misinformation. People just not willing to give up their pride or whatever, and because this little thing right here can protect us. Still, in our schools, in our communities. And there are two passages of Scripture that have led me through this whole thing, both in Matthew. In Matthew 4:7, Jesus was taken up to a mountain. The devil tempted. And Jesus said, "Do not tempt the Lord thy God." And then he told us in Matthew to love your neighbor. Love your neighbor as I have loved you. And this would have been a small sacrifice to just show some love for your neighbor. Innocent people. We lost a lot of innocent people, a lot of good friends, family members, more than I can ever remember. And there's some innocent people dying in Ukraine. And it's not just a federal problem. We have Ukrainian and Russian people. I had a young lady who played volleyball for me at Walker Valley. Who was from there. Have a neighbor, a good friend I just spoke to before I came up here, who has a neighbor from Ukraine. This is a humanity problem. I'm assuming that most of us in here are probably Christian folks. And that's our problem. What's happening over there, to me, is not a good thing. You know, our pastor just talked to us yesterday about not compromising our faith and looking more like Jesus whenever people look at us. You know, what do they see? When I look at Putin, I don't see Jesus. I don't. I see a lot of evil there. I pray for you guys. I've done more praying in the last couple of years. I appreciate y'all so much. I know what you go through. I know the positions you're put in. And I lift you up every night by name. I call each and every one of you out to him by name. And I pray for God to forgive us for what we've done to your world, your church, and to each other. God bless you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Anyone else want to speak before the commission? Get up there, state your name and address, even though I know it. Hello.
Pam Warnke, Thompson Springs Road. I do commend each of you for listening to us last week. There were some things said last week, and you know, I came out here not intending to speak. I didn't intend to speak today, but I just want to clarify some things. It was mentioned by Mr. Stepp that Mr. Williamson had only lived in our community for a few years, a few short years. I'm sure that's true. I don't know. I don't know Mr. Williamson. I met him for the first time here last Monday. I didn't come out here to support him. I came out here because I'm passionate about my community, and I don't plan on leaving. And like I said, my family's been there 95 years. I hope someday my daughter and son-in-law will build a home there, and my grandchildren are raised there. you know, if there was more property out there for sale, I'd buy it, you know? It's just, I appreciate the time, and I just wanted to clarify, I didn't come out here to support Mr. Williamson. I do agree with his ideas. I'm thankful that he brought it up. I'm thankful that he did, because none of us received the rezoning information because our property doesn't touch Mr. Steps. So, thank you, Mr. Williamson, I appreciate it, and thank you all.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lundy. Anyone else want to speak before the commission? Okay, being so, announcements. The next meeting will be Monday, the 28th at 7 o'clock here at the courthouse. We will have, as far as upcoming events, a march on that same day, March 28th, 5:30, landfill committee. We have a road committee, March 16th at 11 o'clock. Oh, that's wrong. That's passed. That was a good meeting. We reported on that today. Bradley County Veterans Home meeting, March 24th, 5 o'clock at the Chamber. Emergency Services Committee on noon, March the 24th. And was there another one that I missed that was added today? I did, I just said, yeah. Am I correct, Ms. Moultrie?
I think so, I think that's
Okay.
it.
Being so, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Sure, you are.